and welcome to this week's episode of The Backspace. I'm your host, Danny J. The title of this week's episode, The Backspace Spooky Halloween Spectacular. We talk about the Ellen Page nudity scandal. We ask whether it's okay to break the law to preserve art history. And why does the little chip on your debit card look like Goatsy? The second half of the show, we will talk about the games we played and should we buy it. So you guys doing Halloween this year?
Yes.
Already did it.
You did?
Nope.
You did it?
Front yard looks like a graveyard.
Nice. Did you guys do, does anybody actually do Halloween candy anymore? Like, the kids come by and...
I bought a box of Cadbury mini cream eggs, but they're mostly gone already.
Oh, dude.
Are they the mini scream eggs?
Yes.
Scream eggs. Those ones. They got the green goo in them?
Yeah.
Those are horrific.
That does.
They are horrific. They're terrible, but they're awesome in their own way.
Mm-hmm. I like the eggs that crackle in your mouth. They like they're...
Oh, the sparkle
pops?
or crackle ones?
Yeah.
The rock. Those are kind of weird.
Those are good.
Do you know what I found at Costco, which is the most awesome thing in the world? It's like caramel popcorn with cheddar popcorn.
Like together?
Yeah, Chicago mix.
Yes, Chicago mix.
It's called Chicago.
That sounds totally banging.
It is. It's one of those things where you're like, you think it's going to be horrible, and then you have it, and you're like, it's awesome.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I bought it purely for the train wreck factor, and I was like, you know what? This is actually really fucking good.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. That stuff's addictive. That's why I try to, every time we go to Costco and I see it, I'm like, oh, I should buy a bag. And Lisa just looks at me and goes, you've already eaten a bag in the last week. So what's with another bag then? We need a new bag. I've emptied it.
Life is short.
No.
I'm only increasing my consumption by 50%.
Life is short.
Exactly.
Make it shorter by eating caramel popcorn.
Yeah.
Don't forget the cheddar. It's got cheddar in there.
Last time I did Halloween candy, I had a house and I was giving away cans of pop. I thought it'd be the cool house. And then so I put in a can into this one kid, and he looked down at his bag, his eyes agape. And then he bolted to the driveway and went, "This guy has pop!" And then I was awash in a sea of fucking children. It was a nightmare. Yeah. So that's...
I opened
Pop
up
is
the
like
door.
liquid candy.
I opened up the door last year. I opened up the door and the kids are like trick or treat, and I'm like, okay, little kids, okay, I'll give them candy. And then it was like the teenage kids. They come to the door and trick or treat, and I'm like, you got to dance for the candy.
You gotta dance.
I'm like, I got to get something out of this, because if I'm going to give a 14-year-old candy, I got to get something funny out of this. And one kid started doing the little shuffle jive. And he starts shuffling. I'm like, perfect. Here you go. Here's your candy.
Yeah, the truffle shuffle.
Yeah, did the truffle shuffle.
We've actually haven't done any introductions yet. We've just sort of
Started talking.
ramped into the show. Yeah, I kind of dig that.
We're doing the show now?
Oh, we're doing it. We've been doing it for a while.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, then.
All right. Brett, what's your deal, man? What's your story?
What's my story?
Yeah.
I'm a poor, pathetic Shaw installer.
Oh.
Climbing ladders and making life miserable for everybody I can meet.
Nice.
It's fun.
Are you a company man? Do you toe the company line?
I toe the company line until the company line makes no sense, in which case I just do the best for the customer.
Did you see that episode of South Park with the Comcast employees rubbing their nipples? Oh, you'll have to wait 2 weeks for the install. Do you see that one?
No. I'd love it if we waited 2 weeks for installs. We now do next day installs. That's why they're booking at me at 150% of my hourly, whatever I'm supposed to get.
Oh, okay.
It's fun.
Well, that's good.
I'm a working man.
All right, Brian, what's happening? I'm the worst at introducing people.
You were terrible.
How do I follow such an introduction? What's happening? I'm sitting at my computer making dinner and drinking beer and talking to you guys.
Nice.
But who are you, Brian?
Yeah, who are you? The man behind the mask.
What makes Brian Brian?
I'm a mystery wrapped in an enigma, coated in a chocolatey shell.
Yeah? Is it like caramel corn?
No. It's not as crunchy. Coated in a cheddar cheese shell?
Sure.
Okay, sure, why not?
I would totally get that, yeah.
I don't know. I'm a middle-aged geek, and I work for a tech company, and I enjoy video games. Cool. I think that's why I'm here.
Yeah, nice. All right, Spencer, what's up, man?
What's up, or who am I?
How is
what's up?
things?
Is I am slouching deeply into my chair and talking on Skype.
Cool.
Guys.
Yeah. But you're you're totally into fitness. You got some we're gonna do a show eventually about the geek of fitness and stuff, and we did one a couple years ago, and I want to touch that again. But you're definitely true, dyed in the wool geek gamer and retro gamer.
Yeah, more so retro. I find myself a little bit confused sometimes going into modern games. There's too many damn buttons on these controllers. I'm kind of ADD, so I tend to gravitate towards the more like pick up and play games that were released, in the 90s and 80s, where there's no intro stage. You just pick it up and you play. There's no 2-hour tutorial or massive cinematics. I really have an appreciation for the rawness of the old games. And as for myself, I'm an IT professional. I've worked in the industry for about 10 years now. Done mostly sysadmin work. I did work for a consulting firm for a while. And now I just got a one-man gig running an IT department for a small business here in Vancouver. In my spare time, I lift a lot of heavy things, pick heavy things up and put them down.
Nice.
I picked them up, I put them down.
Exactly.
And he grows large in the process.
Well, that's not the goal specifically. Is to be as strong as possible. And the type of lifting I do doesn't really. It's not the kind that'll get you big. I think even when I'm eating a lot, I've been eating a big caloric surplus the last couple of months, and I've gained about 7 pounds, and put some big numbers up on my squat and deadlift, but I'm still not a big man. I'm 5'6", wearing shoes, and about 155 pounds right now.
Mm-hmm. But there's definitely some synergy between, the geeky obsessions that we do and working out and using tools and online tools to track, your growth and stuff. But we'll get into that. We'll get to that in another show.
Love to. Yeah,
I would definitely like to get into that again. I do find we have the tools, especially cloud-based tracking tools. It's kind of a competitive thing to show your stats and what you did with your buddies and stuff. We'll get into that.
It shows if you're really lazy like me, and then you're embarrassed. It's like peer pressure.
Yeah, peer pressure.
It's like high school all over again.
Exactly. Little bit about me. I'm just a virtual person. I don't actually exist. I'm like that Japanese pop star Miku Hatsune. That. So.
You mean you have green hair?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Uh-huh.
And you go ATP.
Everything that I'm saying right now, it's all an amalgam of a program. So.
I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it all along.
Yeah.
Your name was the first giveaway. Dan.
Dan.
Short for Digital Android Network, isn't it?
Amalgam Network. Yeah, so that's I do. I work in the IT and I like it. Although I'm getting to that point now where I think it's time to move on. Gaming is something that keeps me distracted. Work, it just funds that goal. That's about it. But we're going to talk about something in the news earlier this week. The Ellen Page. Did you hear that she's done her first nude scene, you guys?
Yeah,
I saw this.
Rented.
Yeah, on Reddit. And yeah, there was some uncanny valley in those pictures. It definitely wasn't sexy.
No.
No.
Yeah, no, but they one thing that they said is that it's not Ellen Page, it's the character Jodie Holmes that is naked on the screen. It has nothing to do with Ellen Page. Ellen Page wore a body tube and had some dots on it that the computer rendered. That was it. She never stripped down naked and had a computer rendering of her. But that sort of begs the question, why did Quantic Dream, the makers of the game, render her naked? That doesn't make any sense unless they wanted to have this happen. I don't get it.
They wanted the leak to happen, or they wanted to have her naked in the game to happen?
Well,
it's a hot coffee mod all over again.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who are saying that it is a way of stirring controversy, and people are now buying the game. I mean, the game itself not that great. not doing very well reviews. It's about 4.5 hours to get through the whole game. So, it could be something like that. Or, I mean, like everything in there is rendered. Her nipples, the VJ, it's all there. It doesn't make any sense if why isn't it just a wax doll? Like I don't understand.
Like a Barbie doll with no anatomy.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I think there's enough striving for realism in games these days that there's enough to give you kind of the benefit of the doubt to say that if they do have an anatomically correct rendering, it's probably not for prurient purposes. It's probably for the purposes of trying to make in the service of making a more realistic character. I mean, maybe they wanted to put her in yoga pants, and maybe they wanted her to have a camel toe. And if the fabric dynamics go over that just right, then mission accomplished. That's obviously a very sort of flippant kind of answer to that kind of thing. But
it's a flippant answer, but there's some truth behind it. Look at a game like Skyrim, where basically everything is already sort of put in there, and all it took was a few programmers to add a nude patch, and voila, they're nude. It wasn't anything major to do it because they had to do it for the characters. So
the clean females mod.
Yeah.
No dirty females.
But only the white ones. Only the white ones.
That was disturbing.
Yeah, it was. It was really weird. But yeah, I mean, there are things going on in a lot of these games these days in terms of like the rendering passes and stuff like that are not obvious to the eye. And there's a lot of things that go on with fabric dynamics and fluids and all that kind of stuff that having this stuff realistically rendered is probably probably justifiable in some way. Now, as to whether these pictures should have gotten out, I mean, yeah, you got to wonder about the timing of it. It starts to tank in the ratings, and all of a sudden, hey, look, we got naked people in our game. It's
well, if their goal was to raise awareness of this game, it certainly worked for me because I'd never heard of it before until this controversy.
I wasn't even aware it was out.
I didn't like this. The title, I'd never heard of it. So,
did we mention the title? I'm sorry. Beyond
Two Souls.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'd never heard of this game until this leak. And, I mean, two things struck me right away. Is one, I'm a little disappointed that we're still so prudish that the idea of a naked human body in a video game is so abhorrent when we have games like Call of Duty where the body count is in tens of thousands by the time you get to the end of it. And no one bats an eye at that kind of violence as long as it's wrapped in the American flag and American jingoism.
Well,
but the idea of a naked
it doesn't
body,
have to be wrapped.
heaven help me.
It doesn't even have to be wrapped in the American flag. We've got games where it's quite normal to take a chainsaw and hack a person to bit. The game that I'm playing, Grand Theft Auto, you torture somebody, and that's perfectly fine. But if you show a naked person, that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, give me a break here. How messed up was our moral compass when nudity is the mortal sin, yet killing somebody with a freaking 2x4 repeatedly caving their head in is perfectly acceptable. I mean, come on.
Yeah, there's definitely something skewed there. I don't know. I guess it's strange that they went so far as to like texture her nipples. But maybe that was just a bored texture artist, working late. It's just like, let's see if we can sneak this in. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It is certainly drawing a lot of attention to the game and Ellen Page. Obviously, she's saying now that she might sue Sony just for these exact same questions that we're asking. Why was she fully rendered? How did this happen? Sony is saying that it was a hacked console, but that's not actually the case. It's a dev PS4 or PS3 that was released these images, and what that is, you can circumvent the camera. You can move the camera where you want it to be, just like a debug mode, and see this shower scene, which was totally ridiculous. I mean, it seems to be that's something like Quantic Dream. They did a Heavy Rain. They had the same thing in that game. A really weird shower scene. Weird.
Well, the fact of the matter is that the main consumer of video games are males between the ages of 18 and 35, right? So if you're going to have a video game, you're probably not going to have too much reason not to include a shower scene if you're trying to appeal to that audience.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And if this was actually included in, like, I wasn't aware of the shower scene thing, but if that is actually in the game, then I can see why they would actually render it, even if it's not fully shown. Just like I said, for the sake of realism. But it's still, I don't know. If it was done without a permission, then yeah, that's a big deal, and Quantic Dream is probably going to get their asses sued up for it.
Yeah, and as they should. Okay, well that's that. Brian? So let's just take one break here. You mentioned you wanted to do a topic. Did you want to do that this week, or did you want to do it next week?
We can touch on that next week. I'm still kind of collecting my thoughts on that thing, so we can just go to news and then currently playing and should I buy it? That'd be fine.
All right. So our next topic is news. So BioShock Infinite Burial at Sea just announced the release date for November 12th. This is for the last-gen consoles and the PC. Price is $14.99 on Steam, unless you bought the $19.99 Seasons Pass, to which I say, haha. But joke's on me, you actually probably already got that episode called Clash in the Clouds, which was a pretty shitty episode, by the way.
Right.
All it really added was a couple of weapons and another map. So you probably have to wait another year for episode 2. Yeah, I like BioShock. Did you guys play that game?
Haven't played.
No,
it.
I didn't actually play BioShock Infinite this year. That was one of the ones I kind of gave a miss to.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't. I bought it when it was on sale about a month ago. It was pretty steeply discounted, and it got good reviews. I figure I'll get around to it eventually, but I haven't played it. I didn't love, and I'm probably in the minority here, but I didn't love the previous games. I felt as first-person shooters, they felt kind of clunky. I didn't love the mechanics. The world seemed very well crafted and well thought out, and I really appreciated the sort of cinematic scale of the whole thing. But the first game kind of left a sour taste in my mouth, so I haven't been chomping at the bit to play the new one, although I've heard it's been improved. So
very much so, yeah. Although the common complaint was that you pick one set of powers and one gun, and that's it. That's exactly how I played that game. So there wasn't much variation in terms of how you can kill bad guys. So
yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as Spencer as far as BioShock goes. I can appreciate them from a design perspective, but I never really found them all that fun to play. I did play the first one quite a bit, and I own the second one, but I've never actually booted it up. So it's one of those things that I've been meaning to get to for a while, which is weird because I was a huge fan of System Shock. I played the balls out of that game, but this BioShock, for some reason, I don't know, it didn't really stick with me.
Yeah,
they just became games that I bought because they were on sale and everybody said they were awesome. And I think I played about maybe 5-10 minutes of the first one and was like, I got stuff to do.
Yeah, it's an interesting world. I that's what drew me into it. That whole period of the United States, that racism on the outside, and I mean it's very prevalent at the time, the Woodrow Wilson era, and I just like you guys said, it was a lot of promise and didn't really deliver, especially in the action regards. But okay, let's move on. So there's some retro gaming news. So we're being topical this week. The the Internet Archive project is taking all those old games from yesteryear and compiling it on their server. So, for example, just before the show, I played The Hobbit for the Sinclair from 1982. Very cool game. I'm really glad that this game is starting to come prevalent because it's such an amazing game for the time. Pre-rendered images and a parser system called English. So you could say, attack the goblin viciously with my sword, and then ask Gandalf for that map, and it'll actually interpret that and put that to action. So it was very cool. So that's you can find that on archive.org and use their Java-based emulator to play it, or you can just download the image too. It's all there. I think that's a really cool project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think it's there's a YouTube channel I follow called Extra Credits, and they said that one of the real things that's sort of holding games back as a medium is the lack of any concerted effort to curate like a collection of what has gone before. And it's getting to the point where a lot of games that were developed for platforms that are defunct now are not playable anymore, and they just kind of fade into the ether. These things that people worked on and spent so much time on and stuff like that have great memories of. Some of them, in a lot of cases, are lost. So I think this is
buried in a landfill in Las Vegas somewhere.
Yeah. E.T.
New Mexico.
Yeah, it's out there.
New Mexico, sorry. Yeah.
It's on this archive.org. You could play that game. It's actually their second most popular download right now.
I bet, because people want to see how bad it is.
It's like, wow, it was that bad.
It's interesting you brought up archiving this stuff, because there's a fair bit of software out there that we wouldn't have access to today if it wasn't for this sort of gray area of ROM dumping. Some great examples are games released on the Stellaview service in Japan for the Super Famicom. These were games that were downloaded onto a writable cartridge via this Stellaview internet service. And there's games like the sequel to F-Zero on the Super Famicom. There was a remake of Legend of Zelda. There was just a whole pile. Radical Dreamers, which was a visual novel sequel to Chrono Trigger. These would never have seen the light of day if collectors hadn't kept copies of them on these writable cartridges and eventually dumped them and had them reconstructed so that people could play them. So what do you guys think of that? Like, do you think that ROM dumping has a legitimate place, even though it's questionably legal? Or the legality is questionable, but do you feel like there's a place for this in keeping an archive of what's come before?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like if we want games to be taken seriously as an art form, there comes a point where we have to kind of surrender them to the world, let them just kind of go out on their own way. There's a time for commercialization of this kind of stuff, and that time ends. Like, every game has a shelf life where it's profitable, and after that, it exists only really as a curiosity and something to sort of be preserved, right? So I think absolutely there efforts like this and abandonware, all that kind of stuff is very laudable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of when the BBC would record over old episodes of Doctor Who, just in the sake of trying to preserve it, not really thinking about the future, and those. So there's lost episodes out there that are valuable. This is the same idea. Don't realize that at the time, like the art value of it is at the time, and so it's lost forever to the ages now. Yeah, so I think any method of preserving this history is a worthwhile endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I mean, they preserve a lot of things that they think are important that really aren't. So maybe this time they preserve the things they might not be important to other people, but are certain groups. So I think it's a good idea. I don't see the.
Oh, who's home?
Somebody's home.
Oh, good.
If
She's
you're
a good
preserving the right
guard.
thing, I mean, honestly, there's some TV shows. Do we really need to preserve them? No. Are there some games that we really need to preserve? No. I think there's good stuff and bad stuff to preserve.
I would actually argue against that. I think we need to preserve them all so that we have a good basis of comparison to say this is a good game and this is a bad game from that time. I think it all has value. There's worth to preserving anything that comes out of these. It comes out of what's come before. Just you want to get to a point where if we need to look back and learn from our past, no matter what art form it is, we need to be able to do that, right?
Create sort of a cultural, like a complete cultural archive, like the entire cultural output of the world from the time of the internet forward. Like this is something that we probably should have, and we have the technology to have an archive of the entire cultural output of the human race from this point forward. So why not do it? And the why not, according to the media producers, would be copyright.
Yeah.
That's the other side of it is.
Somebody's got to make a buck.
Yeah, well, at some point you have to realize that your copy of, Eat, Shit, Kill from 1982 is not going to make you any more money, and it's time to sort of let it go.
Yeah. It's like we have to break the law now and hide it from copyright law in order to preserve it for our own good. It seems.
Yeah, I think at worst
saying.
that's kind of gray market. It's not really. I don't think it's even really defensible as illegal at that point. If something has been around for 20 years and you're not making any money off it now, it's time to just let it go and let it surrender it to the ages, basically.
Absolutely.
The other side of that, though, might be a company like Nintendo, who is still making money off of games that they released
Or
in the
Capcom.
80s. Capcom, yeah.
Capcom is really bad for that.
But I don't necessarily think it's bad. I think having Super Mario Brothers available in a commercial, available commercially, isn't a bad thing, because this game was pretty groundbreaking.
It comes down to demand. It comes down to demand. If there's still a demand for your game, then there's still a commercial viability to it, and that's fine. I mean, if you're still wanting to sell copies of Super Mario Brothers 1, and people are willing to pay for it, then great. But if it comes down to the point where nobody has bought a copy of your game in 3 or 4 years, it's time to just surrender it to one of these sites and let it live on, right?
Yeah. Well, if you want to take another look at that, I'm currently dealing with it. I play Epic 40K. Games Workshop has completely said, nope, we're not doing it anymore. But God forbid you produce anything in 6mm scale that is a copy or very close to one of their miniatures. They'll have a conniption fit, yet they don't produce them in that scale. So the same could be said in this. I can see why some people are getting all complainy, but in reality, if they're refusing to service those markets that want it, then they shouldn't be complaining when somebody is, saying, "Well, look, we're going to make it freely available to people who want it."
Yeah, if you're willing to put in the effort, if you're willing to put in the effort to bring it back to video games, if you're willing to put into the effort to make it available to somebody on current platforms, and if there is still a demand for it, then right. Well, I mean, let's be realistic. That kind of stuff doesn't come free either. I mean, if you're gonna make a version of an original Nintendo game that runs on a current PC, you're gonna have to put some work into that to make it work. And that's fine. There should be some kind of compensation for that. But there comes a point. All I'm saying is there comes a point where these kinds of things have to be just let go.
Yep.
And I think that's healthy for the medium. It's healthy for games as an art form.
And to Nintendo's credit, they've been pretty hands off when it comes to the stuff that was dumped from Stellaview. I don't think they have gone after anyone for that. And I know for a fact that they are well aware of things like the Mother 3 translation project, which was a big deal. And I mean, the guy who produced that even offered to allow Nintendo to use that translation. I think they just didn't want to set the precedent of saying this is okay, but at the same time, they never came down on anyone involved with that project. So to their credit, they've been pretty good about kind of turning a blind eye to this kind of behavior.
Okay. Well, let's close off the news with another little bit of controversy on the Twitter sphere about the actual resolution of the new consoles, and this is kind of it's kind of because it's so technical, it's kind of hard to explain. But most games coming out for the next gen consoles will be 720p. That's just the way it's going to be. It's the same as the old consoles. They're also 720p. So unless they specifically state that they're a higher resolution, that's the way it is. But honestly, that's saying the resolution of the image. They're not saying about the bit rate of the image or how many polygons are in it. So the quality, obviously, the new consoles will be better. But it's just so odd to me that we're throwing over. Should we retcon? Should we get rid of these words like 720p and move on to another way of saying the quality of the game? I don't know. I think it's time to move
EGA, VGA.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question regarding this because I don't own a current gen or previous gen. I don't own a 360 or a PS3.
Uh-huh.
So my question is, when you're outputting 720p from one of those consoles, is it being upconverted on the console to whatever resolution your TV is running at, or are you relying on your TV to scale that?
I think on the old gen, yeah, your TV would upscale it.
I think you actually go in with, if memory serves on the 360, you actually go in and set the resolution on sort of the system level, don't you?
Yeah.
Right.
You go into the settings and then you choose the resolution.
Right, and then there are games. There are games that can. Everything has to be like over HDMI. There's a handshake process that says, "Can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this?" kind of thing, and they go back and forth that way. And I think with some games, when you fire them up, you get that kind of flicker back and forth. That's basically the game testing out different resolutions on your TV and stuff like that. But I think the way it works is you set a preferred resolution at the system level. I believe I know for sure with the Xbox. I believe that happens with the PS3 as well.
It's just, I guess that's kind of disappointing to see, because nowadays just about every TV on the market is a 1080p TV. And the big problem with an LCD screen is that it cannot display any resolution but its native resolution. It's not like a CRT where it can display multiple resolutions natively. So it's disappointing to see that you would go out and spend $400 or $500 on a console and then have your TV do a terrible job of upscaling the image, because all TVs do a terrible job of upscaling lower resolution images. It's almost like, it almost seems to me that this is like running a Wii on a HD TV, like on a 720p TV, is that it looks terrible because it's having to take this 480p image and blow it up. 480p if you're running the component cables, blow it up to this larger image. I don't know.
Yeah, so they're saying, actually, if I recall correctly, that they built into the new consoles, they will do all the up conversion there. So,
okay.
Yeah, so that I do recall both systems will be capable of doing the up conversion. But yeah, so I don't know. I just think that games like Call of Duty Ghosts are marketing themselves at 1080p. We will be 1080p, so that's going to be the new thing now. It's going to be the differentiator.
I kind of understand this move, quite frankly, especially with a game that's going to live and die based on its multiplayer, like Call of Duty Ghosts, because they've got to be shitting themselves right now. They're crossing a console line with this title, and they've got to be worried that that's going to fragment their online user base. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, you used to have 2 different platforms or 3 different platforms where you could play this game before. Now they're going to have 5. So they've got to be worried that they're going to be segmenting their user base, way too fine. And I can see how it would be appealing to push people to get the newer versions. But I mean, at the same time, if somebody doesn't care enough to get a new Xbox or a PS4, they probably don't really care much about resolutions or anything above 720p.
Mm-hmm. Well,
so I mean, this move is, I think this move is completely understandable on the part of the developer.
For sure.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're a developer, you have to think you have this massive install base of Xbox 360s and PS3s. To just ignore that and hang your hat on this new generation of consoles, which
that'd be suicide.
Yeah, and especially when there's sort of a tepid attitude in the market towards them. I don't see the buildup that we saw the last time there was a new console generation.
Well, I think this generation of consoles has been around long enough for people to develop a genuine sentimental attachment to them. Yeah. I remember the PlayStation 1, the PlayStation 2, and the original Xbox days, and it seemed like every couple of years we'd get a new console, so you never really got that attached to the damn things.
Yeah.
But with these ones, the normal console life is 5 years, and these ones have been hell longer than that.
8 years, yeah. So yeah, it's I agree with you. It's just, I think it was like last year we asked the question, where are the new consoles? The Wii U, and then the Ouya. Holy shit, that was a fucking nightmare.
Hey, I still want that PS9 that they came out with, that they were showing the commercials for when the PS2 came out.
Yeah.
That plugged into your head and made everything virtual reality. Where's my PS9, for Christ's sakes?
And that talking baby and the chick with the weird spread out eyes. Yeah, I remember all that.
Oh yeah, the talking baby, the creepy baby.
Yeah.
Everybody had the creepy baby.
All right, well, we're going to take a little break right there, and when we come back, we're going to talk We're going to talk about the games that we played, and we're going to talk some more. Why don't you join us?
going to take my dinner out of the oven while I'm podcasting. Check it out.
Wow, man.
Yeah, I know,
You're
right?
Rocking our world.
What a brave new world we live in. Okay, yep, that looks done.
What's for dinner, Brian?
Chicken divan.
Chicken divan?
I had meatballs.
Nice. Right now?
You got meatballs? I got meatballs.
That was my dinner.
What are you eating tonight? Big balls of meat.
Big balls. I eat a lot of meat, man. I eat a lot of meat.
Meat man.
Well, you
gotta do it.
You destroy your own meat.
So
you got to replace it, right?
Exactly.
So you make things like caveman nachos, where the nachos are not actually nachos; they're big chunks of meat with cheese on them.
Just bacon.
That sounds delicious.
You know what I saw?
You ever
in the
had
store
caveman
the other day?
nachos? They're really good.
Bacon jerky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that too. I want to try it. I'm. It's like, do I have the balls enough to try this? Why not? It's bacon jerky.
I don't want to try that.
Bacon's good. Bacon's always
Probably
good.
contains 90% of a lethal dose of sodium.
Yeah, well, whatever. Sodium never killed anybody.
You guys,
Actually, it kills millions of people every year, Brett.
Those are just numbers that people try to
They're the
throw at you
weak.
to scare you.
I
They're
think
the
as
ones
long as you're active
Cult
enough,
stuff.
sodium isn't that big a deal. It's more if you're sedentary. That's when it can become a problem.
yeah.
Oh, shit. What gets rid of sodium?
Sugar.
You know,
Water.
Ugh.
Oh, yeah, sugar. Yeah, you're right. I'll just pound some sugar, and that'll get the sodium right out of my
that is not a good idea.
Hey, if you like our show, you should like us on Facebook too, and tweet us at our Backspace. I was going to say .com, but it's not. It's just at our Backspace. You can also email any comments to podcast@thebackspace.ca, and maybe we'll read them on the show. All right, so this is the part of the show where we talk about the games that we played in the last week. So, Brian, why don't you talk about any games that you played the last week?
Okay. Let's see. I finally finished off Tomb Raider, the new reboot.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, finished that game off. Liked it. It was a very entertaining game from start to finish, and I think it captured the spirit of the Tomb Raider thing while bringing a new kind of edge to it.
Did you die in the horrendously nasty ways that she can die in?
Oh yeah. I died in all those ways, and it can be frustrating at parts, but yeah, I definitely enjoyed the experience. Not a great game, but if I was rating it, I'd probably give it a solid 8 out of 10 kind of game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, no, I recall the frustrating part being that fucking waterfall you have to slide down, and one wrong turn you get a spear through the eyeball.
Yeah.
In full graphical glory.
Yeah, I got at least 5 spears
nasty.
through the eyeball. Yeah, it was pretty brutal. But yeah, I finally finished that one, and I'm not going back to do it like 100%, find all the collectibles and all that garbage, and I probably won't play any of the multiplayer. I think I'm done with it.
I tried the multiplayer on it, and I wasn't too impressed.
No?
It looked neat. Like you could play as survivors or hostage takers, and you have to escape.
Yeah, it was very hard, and the people that were there were, all 16-year-old douchebags. Yeah.
Okay. Aside from that, this weekend actually I spent some time playing Mass Effect 3 multiplayer again.
Ooh.
And I've every time I come back to Mass Effect 3 multiplayer, because I've come back to it multiple times, every time I come back to it, it always provides me with a really good gaming experience.
Okay. So what is the multiplayer aspect of it? Because to me, Mass Effect is a single game. I can't really see where the multiplayer comes in.
It's a 4-player co-op horde mode, basically, with varying enemies and settings, and it's got a real it's got a persistent, like you've got persistent characters, right? And the whole thing is it's broken down by the 6 kind of character classes in the game. So you've got your soldiers, you've got your adepts, you've got your engineers, you've got all the variations that they have for the character classes. You level each one of those classes up individually, and you have multiple kind of race choices, which kind of determines what kind of powers you get as you go through it. The characters you play are kind of less powerful versions of Commander Shepard. Like he has access to pretty much everything in the game, but these guys will have like 1 or 2 powers.
Yeah.
and it's basically a 4-player, like a co-op against AI, with objectives thrown in every few waves or something like that. Like there'll be an objective where it'll say, go to this point and stand by this computer terminal and download data while all these enemies come at you. So it forces you to go into a certain area. And the more people who are in that area, the faster the download goes, right? So the less enemies you have to face. There'll be a mode where they'll mark one enemy on the map as a special enemy who has to be assassinated, right? So you kill 4 of those and the round is over, kind of thing. And the enemies just keep coming until you do that. And then at the end, there's 10 waves basically. And at the end, you all have to meet at a certain point and extract, which means you have to fight your way across the map again to this one point, and everybody has to be in a certain area when the timer ticks down, or you don't get as much of a reward for the map, basically.
Okay.
Cool. Sort of as a wrapper around all of that too is you're making credits for each mission that you complete, and with these credits you basically buy booster packs, and there's a number of different kind of booster packs. It's kind of like the old card games where you open it up and you don't know what you're getting. You can get weapons, you can get additional characters, you can get equipment. And most of the fun for me is trying to get through enough of these missions to try and save up enough for one of the big booster packs, and then plunking down my in-game credits for it. It's not, you can buy it with real money, but if you do that, you're an idiot. But you basically plunk down your in-game credits for this stuff, and you buy it and you crack it open, and it's like, ooh, what'd I get? And it's very compelling that way. And I tell you, the one thing that kind of revitalized this whole thing for me is I was just kind of dicking around with it on Saturday, and I got this booster pack that gave me a Krogan, what are they called? The guys who zip towards everybody. I can't remember their names now.
Oh,
Vanguard. I got the Krogan Vanguard.
Okay.
And this guy is an absolute monster. I mean, I cranked up his powers to a point where basically they have this ability called Rage, where if you kill anything in melee combat, you get more melee damage, basically. So I had entire rounds where I had a shotgun in my hands, but I didn't fire a round out of the entire thing, out of the thing the entire time. But it gets to this point where you zip off with your biotic charge ability, kill the guy you hit, melee everybody around you, go into Rage, and then rampage through the rest of the level like an out-of-control locomotive loaded down with like berserk rhinoceroses. And it's just, it was a hell of a lot of fun. I had a good time with it.
Yeah.
And that's like what's that game, like a year old now? At least a year old.
Yeah, at least a year.
Yeah, it still has a year and a half, I think. Still has a very active online community, and people are still playing the game. So it was a lot of fun.
That actually makes me want to get it. I purposely didn't get Mass Effect 3 because of some of the negative story-related problems with the game. But you're saying that there's a very sort of RPG element to this multiplayer.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool. I like that. I liked it in Warhammer 40K where you could do that.
Yeah, I recommend Mass Effect 3 to anybody. Yes, there are issues with the single player story, but if you played through the first two, you kind of owe it to yourself to see the story through the end. And plus, with a lot of the stuff that they did after the release, the end game's problems are not quite as bad anymore as people made them out to be.
Okay.
So, I liked Mass Effect 3. I was one of the people who was defending it. I think it's a great game. It's not, Mass Effect 2 is still my favorite in the series, but I think 3 is definitely a worthy successor, and the addition of the multiplayer mode just is kind of a cherry on top for me.
I'm gonna wait for a sale to come on and
yeah, definitely. Pick it up. It's weird because the thing that actually prompted me to go back to Mass Effect 3 multiplayer was the fact that Mass Effect 1 and 2 showed up on sale on Steam, and I was like, oh yeah, I have Mass Effect 3.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go play that.
Very cool. Yeah, is there anything else you played this week?
There was, but I think you're going to talk to Brett about it in the next segment, so I'll defer to Brett.
Okay. Actually, next up on our games we played this week is Spencer.
Yeah. So this week, Arkham Origins unlocked, and I've been playing through that. I'm about 10 hours in, and I was a little bit harsh on it at first, and I'm warming up to it a little bit now. It's not that it's a bad game at all. In fact, it's pretty good.
That's a sounding endorsement.
Yeah.
The problem is you've got a new dev team taking on a prequel to two of my favorite games in the last 4 or 5 years. I don't know how long.
Wait, so this one is not Rocksteady then?
It is not Rocksteady. This one is being done by Warner Bros. Montreal. And so right away you have that issue. There's another team taking this engine and taking the core gameplay and adapting it to a new story, which wasn't written by Paul Dini, doesn't have Mark Hamill, doesn't have Kevin Conroy as Batman. So the voice cast is different. The writer is different. The team putting it together is different. Yet at the same time, it really feels like the last couple of games. The gameplay has hardly changed at all. There's a few new tricks, but they're not necessarily balanced. They kind of make the game a little bit too easy, some of the perks you can get. And at the same time, you have boss battles, which were probably my least favorite part of the last two games. It's not a bad game. I think the problem is when you have two excellent games and then you get a good game following them, it's disappointing. So, I mean, if you need to play more Arkham right now, pick it up. Otherwise, I'd say it'd be a good buy at $20 when it goes on that 50% sale on Steam, inevitably a couple months from now. Yeah, just not bad.
Yeah, whenever you get a AAA title, Spencer, I always go, because it's not really your thing. Because I know you're into the older games and stuff. So when I saw you playing this on Steam, I went, I better check this out. And I was actually I was hovering over the buy button. But I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm going to wait.
Yeah, I don't want to give the impression that it's a bad game. That's the important thing to take away from this. Is it's not a bad game, not by any measurable metric. It just doesn't feel as good as its predecessors.
So, Spencer, I want to circle back onto something you said before. So you're saying that Arkham City is a good game? Because I just a bit of personal background on this. Arkham Asylum is probably one of my favorite game experiences of all time. I played that game from start to finish, like in record time. And I got Arkham City, and I still haven't finished it, and I just didn't really feel the same kind of magic from that. So what is it I'm missing about Arkham City, do you think? That because I don't know.
I can see where that would happen because Arkham Asylum was such a tight, almost Metroid-like experience. And
yeah, it was propulsive. Like the narrative in that one was propulsive. It pushed me through the story. And then I found with City, I just kind of tended to get distracted with all these little random side tasks and stuff like that. I don't know. I didn't feel as sort of pushed through the narrative as I did with Arkham Asylum.
City was a little too open. I think that's where you lost it. Is it was more trying to emulate that Grand Theft Auto feel of you could sort of do what you wanted to a degree, whereas Asylum was, very much this is what you need to do. You need to put all these bad people back in the prison.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I feel like Asylum was the better game, and I think you're right. It was definitely a tighter experience. It was more linear, but you still felt like you were exploring this at your own pace. Like they did a really good job of, again, they just took the Metroid formula and adapted it so perfectly to this beat 'em up. But I don't think there's been anything quite like it since. And certainly City and Origins, if that's what you're looking for, you're not going to find it. I would say Origins is much more similar to City. In fact, the City layout is very similar. It's there's a lot of reused assets in that. But I mean, if you enjoyed, I guess I should put a pin in that and say if you enjoyed City, there's things about Origins you'll probably like.
Yeah, see, that's where I kind of fall on Arkham Origins. Is I love, without reservation, I love Arkham Asylum. But City, I still don't know how I feel about that game, and I've put in a fair number of hours on it. So if it's more City, then yeah, I think I'm going to wait for the the inevitable $16 discount when it comes out, or $12. I think $12.50 would probably be about my sweet spot for that one.
Yeah.
A 75% discount would be about where I'd slide in.
Well, I know you were also Asylum was the game for you because you had it, and I came over for a visit, and you were like, "You have to play this game," and you basically sat me down and started replaying it, and then you made me pause it after I think it was about like 20 minutes, and you said, "How do you feel?" And I was like, "I'm Batman," and you were like, "Exactly."
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm an old-time Batman comic book nerd. Like, I was collecting the comic books when it came to the 50th anniversary and stuff like that. Like, I was disappointed in the first Batman movie because I thought it didn't really correctly capture the character. And honestly, Batman Arkham Asylum has most closely captured the way I see Batman in any media outside of comic books.
When he grabs hold of the Joker when the lights go out.
Yeah.
That was Batman. The lights go out.
Yeah.
What's the first thing Batman does? Wrap his hands around the Joker's neck. Not even thinking about it. That's what you do.
And I mean that game it brought the visuals were realistic enough, but the story and the feel of it was Batman. I mean, I originally I had a little bit of a problem with the whole armored batsuit thing. You know, I'm kind of a old school gray and blue kind of Batman kind of guy. Originally the armored suit was kind of like, whatever. But then, you know, it just kind of sucked me in. And eventually by the end of it, I was like, this is the best Batman experience I've ever had, you know, outside of the comic books. So
I feel you, because same thing, huge Batman fan. Again, the armored suit is always something that I've disliked about Hollywood's interpretations of Batman. Is it's always he's this armored Hulk. I felt that the game, you were fast enough and acrobatic enough that I could put that aside, and because of the context of the game where there is a lot of guns and you do take hits, it wouldn't make sense for you to be wearing you know,
Spandex.
his traditional comic book outfit, which is no armor whatsoever, just a flexible suit, like a bodysuit.
No, I get it. And, you know, they made the same kind of concession in the Batman Begins, you know, Dark Knight kind of movies as well. So it doesn't really bother me that much. But at the same time, I think there was elements of Batman that hadn't really been captured effectively, like the whole sort of detective side of things and the problem solving and figuring the things out. And, you know, I think Arkham Asylum did that a lot better than any other Batman piece of media that I've ever partaken in. Short of maybe a few episodes of the animated series, there were some of the animated series episodes that were really good. So
yeah, and you know, I think for me, I was a fan of the animated series as a kid as well, and having the voice cast return was kind of magical for me.
Yeah, like definitely.
Because I mean, at the time, I had read Batman comics, mostly Silver Age stuff, I think, at that point, because I got a huge bunch of them from a garage sale when I was very young. And so then it was the animated series and the Tim Burton film. And then I think shortly after that, I was introduced to The Dark Knight Returns, was sort of the first modern kind of Dark Knight Batman I'd read. And yeah, so it was interesting to sort of see these voices, because in my head, these were the voices associated with these characters when I was reading the comics from that point forward. So hearing them in this game, they captured that sort of dark, gritty, you know, the Batman that I've been reading since then. It was pretty magical. And again, part of that magic is missing from this game. Not to say that it's a bad voice cast. They're still very good. It's just not the same. And it's kind of my feeling for the whole game is it's good. It's just not, it doesn't have good that enough magic. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I accepted the fact that with this one we weren't going to get another Mark Hamill Joker, and he's actually, I think he's said publicly that he's never going to do that role again, right? Like
yeah,
he stepped away from it.
He won't do it unless they animate Killing Joke. That's the last time he said he would do
that. Would be amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But
Paul Dini directing it, that'd be amazing.
I would be so on board for that. Yep. But I accepted the fact that we weren't going to get another Mark Hamill Joker. But watching the videos and stuff and not hearing Kevin Conroy as Batman just kind of made me go, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know. Like I said, I'll probably once it hits a deep discount on Steam, I'll probably pick it up.
All right. Tell us a little bit about that other game you have you're playing.
So just I'll briefly, we spent a lot of time on that, so I'll be quick. But the Brave New World DLC for Civilization 5 was dropped maybe a month ago, and I picked it up, and it's really good. I mean, I'm a big fan of Civilization. I've been playing it since my first experience on the Super Nintendo, actually, playing the Civilization port on that. And I've loved the series ever since. I put so many hours into Civ 4, it's probably uncountable. And Civ 5 Brave New World sort of fixes the end game of Civilization 5, which I always found became kind of boring. Like once you got into the modern era, the game kind of slowed down. There's less warfare going on.
More micromanagement.
More micromanagement, and the politics always fell flat at that point because everyone was kind of locked into whatever political ideologies and religious ideologies they had. This kind of fixes it by introducing political ideology in a way that your choice will affect your cultural interactions, your trade. It'll affect the bonuses you get, and it will affect your relations with other states. So you can choose between order, autocracy, and freedom. So basically communism, dictatorship, and democracy. And that will greatly affect your relations with other civilizations in the end game. So it can create a huge amount of tension. The other thing they've done is they've made city-states much more important now. It just adds a lot to the end game that I felt was kind of lacking before, and it's fantastic. If you play Civilization 5, it's totally worth it. I think it's $25 for the DLC, but it really adds this whole new element to the game. The other big thing is there's new conditions for cultural victory. Is you now have a culture stat and a tourism stat. So the more tourism you can generate, the more influential your culture is in other cultures. And eventually you can win a victory by basically having everyone else wearing your blue jeans. So yeah, if you're a fan, pick it up. It is awesome.
You should tell them that story that you were telling me in that Steam conversation we had the other night.
Oh, I did a bad thing. I did a...
What?
I was going for a cultural victory. I had an amazing amount of tourism. Of the 5 players left on the board, all of them had succumbed to my culture. I was now an influential culture in all of those nations except for Greece, who had been playing also culturally. So they had this massive culture. And when you develop a lot of culture in that game, it acts as sort of a defense against other cultures' tourism. So even if their tourism is strong, your own home culture is strong enough to resist. So Greece was this problem for me because not only had they been antagonistic towards me the entire game, they were also resisting my cultural influence. So I declared war on them shortly after enacting a nuclear non-proliferation act, preventing them from getting nuclear weapons. And I basically turned them into a nuclear wasteland.
Nice.
And razed their cities.
Accept our culture or become our parking lot.
Basically.
That's the question. What was it, George Carlin? Do you believe in God? No. Blam. Do you believe in God? Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I just miss Leonard Nimoy. I miss his little input in that game. You know, maybe they should add him in there to like cast aspersions on you when you do stuff like that.
I felt bad enough once I got that cultural victory screen. It's like, because it goes on about how wonderful your culture is. And I was like, oh boy, I got this by killing like 200 million people.
Yeah.
I should feel good. This is a very hollow victory for me. And having Spock tell me that I was an evil person for doing it, I think would have driven that stake straight into my heart.
No, you won the game through your superior culture and your willingness to nuke those who defy you.
All right, Brett, tell us about the games you played last week.
Currently, I got a 6-year-old girl in the room, so move on to the next person.
All right.
It's my stepdaughter.
You've been
playing what you do in your own time.
GTA 5.
Playing Kawati Shoujo.
Hang on a second here, guys.
Yeah.
Just gonna have to put a hold on it for a sec.
We'll fix it in post.
Yeah, we'll fix it in post. I'm actually not. I'm not going to do much editing this week. So, all right, tell us about your terrible games that you played.
Terrible games that I've played?
Yeah.
You horrible person, you.
That a 6-year-old can't witness.
Well, it's like Grand Theft Auto when she's not in the room, but I have to also go out there and play Monster High Uno and Despicable Me 2 Monopoly. So those are the games that I've been playing. Seriously.
There's a demographic.
Monster High Uno. There is a Monster High Uno. You have to do the things with the cards and occasionally go, it's kind of, it makes 6-year-olds happy. And that's really all I want to do in life is make sure that the children in this house are happy, because when they're happy, they leave me the freaking hell alone.
Oh, I was going to say, like, who are you? And then it went,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I play Grand Theft Auto at night when the fiance passes out, from exhaustion, and then I get to, drive around and kill things and murder things. I actually restarted the game because if you play Grand Theft Auto and you do the assassination missions too early, you can basically screw yourself in the ability to buy any of the really cool properties later on in the game.
Oh, that's a good tip.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known that.
that's pretty much all I've been playing is really boring children's boards games and occasionally playing Grand Theft Auto when I need something to, take away some of the stress.
Man, children's games. Oof.
Yeah, I know.
Now I'll
I
tell
know
you.
it's all about children's games, Dan.
All right, well, what I played this week was Animal Crossing New Leaf for the 3DS.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, that crow sure is delicious.
That's an all ages game. Let's get this out. Nintendo does not make children's games. They make all ages games.
I love that.
Uno's
game,
all ages. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, exactly.
I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah, it's a good game. That's so. Sorry, Brett. Was there anything else you wanted to?
No, I have nothing else to say. I have become very, very boring. Sigh.
Animal Crossing New Leaf. Yeah, I've been playing it.
It's a new leaf.
Do you love it?
I do.
Okay, so Dan, explain to me.
Yeah.
Why I should care about Animal Crossing, because I've never. I think I should probably say that Nintendo titles are kind of a blind spot in my gaming history. I went Sega Master System, Sega Genesis, PlayStation, Xbox, as far as my kind of console, and then I became a member of the PC Master Race after that. So I kind of skipped Nintendo altogether.
Yeah. Well, I have. Yeah. So this is definitely a Nintendo game. Like it's all the hallmarks of Nintendo. It's ponderously slow.
Nintendo game.
That's what I was trying to say. It's ponderously slow, and so I got excited because one of my villagers gave me a banana as a present because I gave him a beetle, and then I got to. So I planted the banana, and it took 3 days to plant, and I mean like 3 actual days for the banana to grow. And then once it's finished growing, I had 2 bananas from that tree, and then I planted those 2 bananas, and I was really happy about it.
Right. Okay. So those are the specifics. So what's the high level overview here? What is it about this game that would make me give a shit about it?
Right. I'm getting to that. So
okay.
I have an island that's abundant in pears, like so many pears. So now I have all these bananas.
Pears what?
Pears, like a pear, like a fruit.
Pears what?
Just a pear.
Sorry.
A pair of pears.
Just being an asshole.
A pair of pears. And now I have a pair of bananas. I could sell those bananas and make lots of money. What is it about this game? Well, it was kind of like it was designed for a time before the internet or MMOs or anything like that, because it's designed specifically so that you are taking care of a cast of characters, your town. You are the mayor, so you get to name your town, you get to design your town, choose the tiles. You could choose to chop down all the trees, all the pear trees, a pair of pear trees, and just plant bananas. I mean, it gives you full control over what you can do to your town. I mean, as far as like the end game, there's no end game.
Right.
That's it.
So it's municipal control is what this game offers.
Yep. What is the appeal of it? I have a downtown core that's slowly attracting musicians and artists and stuff to come because I've gone that way. I don't know actually if that's the way the game will go anyway, if that's like locked into the game's path, but I like to think that because I have an art gallery and I've been, donating to it, that it's attracting artists to my downtown who are, adding a little culture. It's just it's neat that my actions do have these kind of results in a handheld game that I can pick up and play anytime I want. Oh, my only complaint is also with the 3DS, it will fucking violently eject the cart across the room. Yeah.
What?
Why? I don't know. What? I don't know. I just have it in my pocket. I've got the 3DS XL, and it's a little bit big, so I think I just sort of brush the cart, and then when I'm sitting down or something, the cart will just fucking throw itself out of the 3DS across the room.
Maybe it doesn't want to play. I mean, you ever thought of that?
So, anyway, that's my only issue. If you were going to buy the game, get the download version, because then it's always on your console. Although I have heard that there's some issues with corruption in that game, and that would just be fucking tragic. So
yeah, that would be.
So that's Animal Crossing. I'd recommend it if that's your thing. If you just like to jump into a game and get actual rewards and end game, then I'd skip this one.
Yeah, there's a certain appeal to the Animal Crossing games. It's hard to really put your finger on. But it's very Nintendo in that it's charming, and there's a certain magic to Nintendo's first party titles. I don't know how to explain it. It's almost like trying to explain to someone who's never had Disney, like why Disney is magical.
Or McDonald's. You know? Like, you grew up with McDonald's, you want to eat there. It's the same thing with Nintendo.
I want to understand though.
Yeah.
I think Nintendo is kind of a blind spot in my gaming history. I got to admit.
You didn't have any cousins who had Super Mario 2, and you passed the controller?
Sure, yeah. I played some of the games. I got frustrated with the underwater levels in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on the original NES.
Yes.
I did stuff like that, but the first party titles I didn't really have a whole lot of attachment to, because when I started really gaming seriously, I was probably in my late teens already. Mm-hmm. So. That kind of stuff, when you're like a 17, 18-year-old kid, you're like, that's for babies.
Yeah, I mean, actually,
I'm going to play Shinobi where I can throw throwing stars at guys' heads.
Yeah, like they were actually marketing the Sega Genesis versus the SNES as like, this is for, true gaming, and it's got adult content on here. You look back at the marketing back in the day, and they were definitely taking that approach as well.
Yeah.
They definitely Sega had that edgy, kind of cynical 90s marketing thing going on where it's like, oh, you don't use our product? You're a dumb idiot. I mean, really, that's what it boiled down to. And I think it kind of worked, because if you looked at the time, I mean, now we all look back at the Super Nintendo and we're like, that was a golden age of gaming. And certainly there were classics on the Genesis, but the libraries, when you look at it now, the Super Nintendo just had this incredible library compared to the Genesis. Whereas most people, when they think of the Genesis, they think of it as almost like a failed experiment, because by the mid-90s, it was a leaning tower of bits and add-ons and terrible games.
First off, you shut your filthy mouth about the Genesis. That game, that system was amazing. And secondly, yes, I owned the leaning tower of Sega myself.
Was it the 32X on top and the CD player below it? Yeah, I remember the leaning tower of destruction.
I had the CD player, and I had the 32X. And believe me, to this day, the 32X is one of the worst gaming purchases I have ever made in my life.
Well, wasn't that so you could play? What was it?
Doom.
Doom? Oh,
Doom. Star Wars Arcade, that was the other one.
Yeah. Those were killer games, though.
So the idea behind the 32X, as I recall, was the 16-bit Genesis system became a 32-bit system. Was that it or something? Yeah.
It was a half-assed. It was two 16-bit parallel processors. It wasn't really a 32-bit processor, but whatever. Like I have vivid memories of actually. I lived in Nanaimo at the time, and I drove 2 hours to go down to Victoria to this game store that had one of these things. And when this thing launched, the hardware came out and there were no games for it. None whatsoever. You couldn't buy games for the 32X anywhere. So I drove 2 hours down to Victoria to buy one of these fucking things. I drove 2 hours back, plugged it into the top of my Sega, and went,
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's done. And that was it. What next? Yeah, exactly. So, is seriously the money that I spent on the 32X is seriously one of the worst gaming purchases I've ever made in my life. And this is coming from a guy who owned a 3DO. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember the 3DO.
Yeah.
The best version of Star Control 2.
Yes, Star Control 2. We could do an entire show on Star Control 2 and the 3DO and stuff like that. But yeah, we shouldn't get into that now, because I have very fond memories of that game.
And we will, yeah. I had the Turbo Graphics CD. That was pretty good. There were some pretty good side-scrolling shooters. So
the TurboGrafx 16 that was advertised as a 16-bit system, but was actually two 8-bit processors running side by side.
Yeah.
Well, when you add them up, it comes to 16.
It's 16. Yeah.
Yeah.
The only good game they had was that racing game where you could have the car that had the fan in the middle, so when you did jumps,
Military Madness.
Yeah, that game had a lot of usage in my.
Military Madness, man.
Yeah, Military Madness, Ease 1 and 2.
Bonk's Revenge.
I had a really good RPG that I forget the name of it, but it was really great. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it.
What was that other one? The Neo Geo. Did anybody have one of those?
Nobody could afford that. That was
not a rich man.
Yeah.
With $600 cartridges? Are you fucking kidding me?
There's a portable version coming out for that. Did you hear about that?
No, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, those things. I never even knew anybody who had a Neo Geo. I've never even heard of anybody in my circle who had one of those things. And as far as I know, they didn't exist because I've never actually seen one.
I love the animation, the animated GIFs, sprites from that era. It's artwork nowadays.
Yeah, the 2D stuff that they did on the Neo Geo was amazing because they had all that free space to play with. So they put it all into animations and stuff like that. Remember, like what was it, NAM 1972?
Oh, what was that?
I remember the slug thrower game.
Yeah, Metal Slug. Yeah,
hours playing that game.
And all the fighting games, of course. So many fighting games.
Samurai Showdown 3 or 2. Samurai Showdown 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
The thing to remember about that system is it was an arcade board basically put into a home console. So they were arcade perfect. Like, this was arcade hardware. Because, I mean, even those arcade systems, the MVS was pretty innovative at the time because if you were an arcade owner, it had 4 cartridge slots. So you would buy the games on cartridges, and you would install them into the MVS cabinet onto the MVS board, and you could basically run 4 games in a single cabinet. I mean, it was a neat setup.
I remember that's what they had at the arcade that used to be at Brooks Landing here in Nanaimo because I remember going there to play Metal Slugs all the time, and you could choose the different games. And they had the images on top. You can just sort of pick the game you want to play. It was kind of cool.
Massive sidetrack.
Yeah.
We don't go off on tangents here. Cool. All right. Next segment of the show is Should I Buy It?
Let's make this a yes/no.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, for sake of time, because I've also had a woman come in here and look at me dirtily. So
I gotta get going. All right. Let's go through. All right, Spencer.
Brian, Game Dev Tycoon. Should I buy it?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Brian.
Dan. Silent Hunter 3. Should I buy it?
Should you get it? No.
I picked it out because you have 69 hours played.
Yeah.
Giggity.
Yeah, I mean, I get it now. I get it.
Yeah, there you go.
I just went way over my head when you said it first. Okay, I do have to give a little bit of background. Like, it's nice that you can you can level up a career mode, build your crew to go along with you throughout the war. That's kind of neat. You can. It's kind of like Das Boot. Yeah, that's sort of where I figure it. You can name your guys, give them medals. They get better as you give them more medals and stuff. And you spend your hard-earned mission cash to upgrade your boats and stuff. And
do rivets pop off and kill people when you go down too deep?
No, but you do get that creaking sort of sound. I like the ambience to that game. Like when you dive, there is a lot of tension automatically built in. You're in a submarine, for fuck's sakes.
Right.
But yeah, no, I would if that's your thing. Yeah, but it's an older game.
So I noticed there was a comment that you put. Where is it here? Silent Hunter 3. There was a comment that you put
several hours to get to a location just to get blown up by a battleship.
Yeah, I was going to say.
That seems like something you might have placed on there in a fit of pique.
That was kind of. I think I deleted it right after that too.
No, it's still there.
No. I mean the
if
game.
You like. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
If you like spending half hour to get to a mission location and promptly dying due to destroyer death, you'll love this game.
Yeah, rage quit.
And then you right-click delete or right-click delete local content.
Yeah. That's pretty much
modern day equivalent of throwing a cartridge across the room.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, and then I tried Silent Hunter 5. Yeah, Silent Hunter 5.
Okay.
It's definitely an improvement, but it's janky as all hell. Like it's broken. I guess.
Who's next?
My turn.
Brett.
Should I get Jagged Alliance? One or two?
Okay. Which one? Well, I would say Jagged Alliance 2 and ignore everyone else, every other Jagged Alliance game.
Oh, okay.
What about Unfinished Business?
No.
No?
Oh, shit, because I already bought that one.
Okay, that game, it's one of those games where you start playing it and you're like, oh, this is a lot like Jagged Alliance 2. You remember that? Because Jagged Alliance 2 was fun. It was enjoyable. It had a learning curve, and it was, let's be nice to you, and we'll slowly ramp up the bad guys, and we'll have fun, and they won't find you right away. And Jagged Alliance Unfinished Business is more like, okay, here's the world. Here's a pistol. Everybody else is armed with an AK-47 and wants to kill your motherfucking ass. Have fun.
Yeah. Really? Because I had that experience in Jagged Alliance too when I played on a difficulty above novice.
Yeah, this one, it doesn't matter what difficulty it is. The enemy can see you no matter where you are. You can't sneak up on them, and everybody is equipped with the most powerful weapon in the game, except for you, who just started and you only got a Colt 45. And guess what? You can't make any more money to buy new ones.
Huh.
It is an exercise in mass frustration. I was so pissed when I bought that game, and then I played it, and I was having fun for the first hour, and then it was like, okay, now we're going to take the kid gloves off, and it basically laid a bitch slap on me that was like, I couldn't do anything about it. I couldn't play any further into the game. I couldn't do a thing because they decided that everybody on the bad guys team needed an AK-47 and full body armor, and I still had 45s and flak jackets. It's stupid. Play Jagged Alliance 2, get that one, get the outside patch, the version 2.026 Wildfire patch. Don't get the Jagged Alliance 2 Wildfire edition, but there's a patch that you can get that's a user mod, and it makes Jagged Alliance 2 really fun, enjoyable, fun, play it through, have fun, but don't go anywhere near unfinished business unless you are into sadomasochism.
All right. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I will get that one then. So the Wildfire patch, is that the one?
Yeah, and buy the Jagged Alliance 2 version and then get the version 2.026 patch. You can find it at any Jagged Alliance 2 site.
At a fine retailer near you.
Exactly.
Actually, it's fan made. It's fan made.
Fan made. It's fan made, but it's fans who have said, we can make this game great, and they did.
Cool. That's great. I like that. All right. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about? Did I miss anybody? Spencer?
No, we got him.
Yeah. If I could amplify a little bit on what I said about Game Dev Tycoon, it's a really fun game, and if you ever wanted an insight into why the games industry is the way it is right now, play Game Dev Tycoon, because it gives you a really good idea of why things are kind of spiraling out of control in terms of like game development these days.
There's a bit of social commentary in there as well. It's not just
Yeah. It's basically some game developers who are saying, you want to know why things are going the way they're going right now? This is why. And you get a really good, clear picture of why the industry is in the kind of the state it's in right now, because of this game. It actually provided me a lot of insight into how these decisions are made. So
cool. I'll give it a look.
I got that one for the iOS, and it was frustrating as all hell.
Yeah, it's fun though. It's when you finally have a game that breaks through, and you kind of hit that magic moment where you have the right game at the right time, and it sells millions and millions of copies. It feels really good. So.
All right, well, that's it for the show this week. Thanks everybody.
No problem. I will be leaving immediately because a woman is going to yell at me in about 5 or 10 seconds, and I really want to go out there and have that happen.
White aggro.
All right.
Yep.
Well,
I've tried aggro. Yeah, I got to get to the zone before she kills me. Yeah, train to zone. Later on.
All right, man. Thanks again. See you next week.
Good night, everybody.
Night.
Bye.
Another thing too is that folder is a shared folder. So if you have Google Drive installed and you move that folder into your Google Drive, we can also throw files into there. So just if you guys want to share any stuff, I don't know, like pictures or whatever, you can throw them into there and they'll just copy to your hard drive automatically. Okay. Or it'll copy to all of our hard drives. So don't put anything gross in there. I don't know why I just said that, because now it's going to happen.
Goatsy, here we come.
The Goatsy, the Statue of Liberty for the internet, It's the first thing everyone should see when they venture to the shores of the internet.
Yeah, that was what broke my heart on the internet.
Yeah,
I clicked on a Goatsy link and I have never been the same ever since.
On those debit cards, the little chip in there, every time I look at it, it looks like Goatsy. Sorry, I have to put that in your brains now.
Oh god, I gotta go look at my debit card now.
Yeah, they look like Goatsy. That's it.
Purely unintentional. Actually, maybe it was intentional.
I don't
They're
know.
just like some asshole engineers just like, oh god, we are going to do this. It's going to be subliminal. Every time you pull that thing out of your wallet, you are going to subconsciously see Goatsy.
Yeah. Florida, everybody stares at my legs.
Because they're so white.
Yeah, and one guy went up to me and went, "Are you riding a chicken?" And I went, yes, sir. And he goes, "What kind of chicken?" And I said, "Are you asking what particular breed my chicken? If I was riding a chicken, what kind of breed they are?" "Yeah." I suppose the answer would be Rhode Island Transparent because they're so white, they're see-through. It was a weird dialogue. Like, it was a conversation.